Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 8 of Rock and Roll. We have a fantastic show lined up for you today. We've seen a very successful first round and we are looking forward to that all-important second round where the big boys all come together. We've got a bunch of experts in the studio breaking down those games, telling us who they think is going to win and where those matches are going to be won and lost as well. That's going to help you with your predictions as well, so make sure you stay tuned and watch this show. Looking forward to round number 2.
CEAT Car Radials. The road is yours.
Some things are meant to be felt, not just seen good. At Singha, every curve, every detail is an invitation to experience craftsmanship that transcends time. Crafted with absolute love from materials chosen for their grace and designed to complement the art of living well. Your home is a reflection of your story. Singha is there in the quiet moments and the lasting memories. Built to endure. As time passes, they even feel more closer to you. Quiet luxury, lasting craftsmanship. For a stylish lifestyle, Singha Furniture.
Hearts racing fast, we feel alive. For miles and miles, let your spirit fly. There's no turning back, the road is yours.
German-engineered tires for Sri Lankan roads. CEAT Car Radials. The road is yours.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode, Season 2 and Episode 8 of CEAT Rock and Roll. We've got just not one, not two, but we've got three very special guests in the studio joining us to look forward to the second round of action in this Dialog Schools Rugby League, and not just the cup segment, the plate segment and the bowl segment. We're going to be looking at all three, but paying special attention to the cup championship. Let me introduce my guests to you. Of course, all of you know Abdullah Yusuf, who's been with me from episode 1. He's here as well, and joining us a bunch of our co-commentators, Sudarshana Peiris, former Trinity College hooker, joining us on the show, and Lakshisi De Silva, also from, well, I have to say, he's from Isipatana, and Abdullah is from Royal, so all of you know, and it's transparent where our allegiances lie, but we will be completely impartial where these matchups are concerned, and looking forward to it. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Shanaka.
Great to have you guys on the show. Let's look at what has transpired. We have the cup segment of the second round of schools, and this is what we will see on the screen. The cup segment and the top two teams, Trinity and St. Thomas's, they are the ones who are leading the pack at the moment. Coming up next, Wesley, then we've got Royal and St. Peter's also bringing up the rear. So interesting matchups, guys. We were expecting something like this to happen. We thought maybe, Lakshisi, that we had Isipatana, who were the knockout champions, may have thought that they would be a little closer to the top, but they're not. So what is your take on that?
So I believe, Shanaka, that from the knockouts to the league, the transition has not been that smooth for Isipatana. I think we saw a certain pattern for Isipatana throughout the league, and I believe in each of those measures, if you look closely, there's this 15 or 20 minute quick burst for Isipatana, especially in the first half. And then you just don't see them playing in the same manner for the rest of the game. So I believe that was the same case against St. Thomas's as well. They had that little 15-minute period where they scored 2 tries after that initial first try, which St. Thomas's scored. And then after that, St. Thomas's, they got a hold of it, and Isipatana, there was no coming back for them. So I believe that's an issue. That's an area that Isipatana will have to take a huge to look at going into the second round, because all the teams are very high class teams, and against those teams, those little bursts won't help them.
Well, that's an interesting one that you mentioned, Lakshisi, because you say that they're playing in 20-minute bursts, but in the knockout final, they were playing the whole 70 minutes and came through. So has anything changed? Is it injuries? Is it squad depth? What do you know about the team?
So that's why I mentioned that the transition from the knockouts to the league has not been good from Isipatana. I think they have a lot of injury issues. Abdullah Yusuf, he didn't play 3 of the knockout games. And then Samiru Disas, he was not there for the final, but he returned for the league and he got injured again against Sahira. And then Kodituaku and Aditya Madhushan, the 2 centers, Kodituaku of course scored that final try against Trinity in the knockouts, and all of them are nursing injuries, and Nimantha Sandeep, I think that's one of the key areas for Isipatana. I think that they have been struggling. Nimantha Sandeep, this is not the same Nimantha Sandeep that we saw last year, where he scored 2 hat-tricks against St. Thomas's in a single season last year, and this is not the same Nimantha Sandeep. So they have a lot of injury issues, and I believe there's a certain concern about the depth as well, I believe, because even in a game, Shanaka, we were there in that game against St. Thomas's. Aditya and you, both were struggling, but I believe they didn't have that enough firepower to replace them. So I think that the injury concerns, I think that's a huge issue for Isipatana going into the second round against the top teams.
Well, let's see how they go. It's an Isipatana side, and as all Isipatana sides, you can never write them off, and that's what we have learned over the last few years, not last few years, last few decades watching Isipatana. They will find a way to make it work. There's a question that people have been asking, Sudarshana, since 1987. Is this Trinity's year? Right, you've asked that a few times over the last decade or so. Is the answer finally going to be yes?
Well, I think Trinity side this season so far has given a lot of positive hope for all their spectators, but the answer is half done, I'd say, because the most challenging games are yet to come. Something Trinity will be happy about is the fact that last couple of games they did seem to get into some sort of a rhythm, because despite being unbeaten in the first round, Trinity has been up and down. So that's a concern Trinity were carrying. But last couple of games, I think they've hit their rhythm, and they will be very happy at the fact that out of the 4 games, 3 will be at home at Pallekele. So that will give them a lot of confidence, and Trinity will want to make sure that the 87 tag of being the last league champions is taken away from them. Yeah.
Well, you say that 3 of the 4 games are going to be at home, but the most important one, at least on paper right now, against St. Thomas's is going to be in Mount Lavinia. So how is Trinity preparing for that game?
Yes, I think that's going to be a very, very crucial juncture in this league chase for Trinity College, because St. Thomas's, as we've seen, have improved leaps and bounds from where they were at the knockout quarterfinals against Trinity College. So Trinity might have that psychological advantage having beaten St. Thomas's, but it's not the same St. Thomas's side that they met at London Place. Adding to that, Trinity has to come down, travel to Mount Lavinia. They just don't have it's not only the St. Thomas's outfit that they're going to have to take. They will have to try and get used to that maze, which is the big club grounds. With the turf in the middle, it's never easy, and the wind coming in, it's going to be difficult for the kickers to try and get accustomed to those conditions. So that's going to be a very, very important matchup for both the teams. Remember, St. Thomas's have won a trophy. They know the importance. They know the delight of winning a trophy. Canon Decirum will be on offer, and that's going to spur them up even more, and they will have a bone to pick against a team that they defeated them.
Certainly will, and the Canon RS Decirum Trophy on offer between Trinity and St. Thomas's. Quite a few Trinity Old Boys sons in that St. Thomas's College team, so whoever wins, those guys will win. So there are a few, a select few people who will be happy regardless of the result. Speaking of results, Abdullah, let's go back to last week, and Royal College completely shut out, didn't manage to score a try. You were reconciled to the fact that they may lose that game up in Kandy, but it doesn't matter because it's not the Bradby. But were you expecting not to go over the line?
Well, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter because it's not the Bradby. I mean, yet the league was on the line. So I'm sure they would have wanted to go and get a good result there. But yes, I think overall the result was pretty disappointing. It's not just the result alone. I thought the performance on the whole was pretty disappointing. And I think credit to Trinity as well. They just completely shut Royal out. Again, very disappointed with the fact that they couldn't cross the line as well. It was just the 4 penalties that Royal had to show at the end of the game. So a bit of introspection will be needed to see what went wrong, because up until that game, Royal were pretty much cruising through their group stage. But you always had that at the back of the mind. Once you come up against one of the big teams, how will Royal fare? And unfortunately, they came out a cropper. But they'll need to sit back and look, because from now on, it's not going to get any easier, is it? So yes, they will have to just identify how they want to approach games. I yet just feel that Royal just hasn't got a feel on how they are going to make maximum use of whatever strengths they have. Because I just don't think Royal has the pack they used to have in the past few years that can dominate, or at least can gain parity. We have seen even in the league stages that they have struggled against some of the other packs, especially their fringe defense has been found wanting on a couple of occasions. And offensively also, how they want to play. We all know that they have got a good back three, but against the good teams, you've got to create opportunities, got to create a bit of space. So that's an area which I feel they yet haven't quite mastered, and it's something which they'll need to look at pretty soon, because they don't have much time.
Well, they don't have much time, but they do have 2 weeks, and good teams really manage to work on those things very quickly. And speaking of good teams, Wesley looks a really complete team, gentlemen. Do you all want to take a crack and say what excites you about this team?
Yeah, so I would love to start on that. I just think the balance between the forwards and three quarters, most of the other teams, it's either the forwards who is their strength or it's the three quarters. But here, I think both teams, a wonderful balance. I also think that game management is extremely good. When they're under pressure, they have key players who can stand up and take control of the game. So overall, I think they're a very well balanced team. And at the start of the season, I kind of looked at them as the dark horses, but I think they have moved way beyond that to being one of the favorites now.
Yeah, so we're looking at favorites in this Cup Championship, and Trinity are probably the top team at the moment at the end of the first round. But do you think that people are taking Wesley a little too lightly, Sudarshan?
I don't believe people are taking Wesley too lightly, because if you ask me, I think Wesley are the favorites here. Because looking at that team, this squad was 3 years in the making under Terence Henry, who took over that charge, and you can really see the maturity and the fact that the entire squad believes in the process that Coach Henry and his coaching staff has put in place. Like Abdullah mentioned, there are leaders across that team who put their hand up in times of adversity for Wesley. They haven't faced much adversity, yes, throughout that first round, but I think that's going to be a team to look out for, and they are going to be the team to beat in this competition.
Losing to Isipatana in the semi-finals of the knockout tournament, Lakshisi, Wesley, what will they have learned from that? Do you think they have fixed those problems?
I believe they have, Shanaka, because in the league, before the start of the knockouts, personally, I felt that St. Thomas's and Wesley, they'll be the teams to beat this year along with Trinity. And Wesley College, to be honest, I expected them to beat Isipatana in that encounter, but after getting that initial lead, everything just changed. So I think they have managed to build up the confidence needed to beat Isipatana in the first round. And as Sudarshan mentioned, these boys have played together for some time now, and they know how to win trophies. I think that's one of the main reasons why they will most probably come into that game as favorites against Isipatana, although they lost against them. So I feel the same thing that Abdullah mentioned as well. They're an all-round side, and because of that, I believe the fact that they managed to beat St. Peter's quite convincingly, we can say, all those factors will come into play, and I believe they're a much different side to what they faced Isipatana earlier in the season, and Isipatana as well, because they're down on confidence. So Wesley, I think if they do get the chance, they will definitely cash in that encounter. That's why Isipatana, it will be really hard for them to bounce back against such a side.
And if I can just jump in, Shanaka, I think if you remember, right, while we won comms, when Trinity beat St. Anthony's by 62 points. You yourself said, despite Trinity scoring big, it didn't look like a controlled performance. But Wesley, throughout this season, the wins that they've gotten, it has been a controlled performance and it has been a team performance. So that is something most of the coaches really look forward to. So that's why I think Wesley has popped up on radar of a lot of people.
Let's talk a little bit about the coach, Abdullah. He started his career when you were an assistant coach at CRN FC, Terence Henry, coming straight out of Wesley College, and it took a while for him to get going, didn't it? And then he's won a league with Havelocks. He's played for Sri Lanka. He's coached teams, and now he's brought up some really good players through the ranks, and he's showing a kind of maturity that we certainly, if somebody told you that this is where he's going to be in 2005, you'd have laughed at them.
Yeah, it was interesting coaching him a long time ago. Of course, he was just out of school at that time, but he's definitely come a long way. He's gone through the grind, isn't it? He's captained a very successful Helvis team. He's represented Sri Lanka, and now he's coached for a few years as well. So also, I think he's also got a good squad of players under him. And collectively, also, they seem to be peaking at the correct time, which is also important. So yeah, he's definitely got them firing. And just 4 more matches, so it'll be interesting to see whether they'll be able to carry on in the same vein.
Yeah, it's very interesting indeed, because all forwards, Sudarshana, coaching the cup teams. We've got a few front row forwards as well. We've got Darushka Boteju at Isipatana. We've got Anuranga Walpola at STC. We've got Sanat Martis also, who was a hooker in his time. He's coaching St. Peter's. Dushant Luke at the odd man out as a third rower.
Only exception being Fasil Marija at Trinity.
Well, yes, Fasil Marija, of course, but then he could
again,
play anywhere, right?
reaffirms the fact that forwards are much more intelligent when it comes to the game.
I think that's a discussion for another time.
So let's look at the upcoming fixtures. Let's look at week 1 of what we have got in store for you in the Cup Championship. Unfortunately, because of the seedings coming from last year in what is a manifestation of some thinking from the Sri Lanka Schools Rugby Football Association, we may have the title decider, which happens on the first week. So let's take a look at Trinity versus St. Thomas's. Sudarshana, this is going to be a very interesting one. Again, because Trinity are away from home, and because St. Thomas's seem to be on the up and up. They're showing a little bit more character in their performances, so this must worry the Trinitian camp.
100%, and especially given the fact that they've tasted victory last week at home, and St. Thomas's are getting those crowds back in. And this team, like you mentioned, have some real good game breakers across the park. You talk about Makaya Karnaratne in the forwards, you have Bulat Singalage in the backs, Mayanka Dyers, Liera Gunawardena, Haliagoda. So these players have really put their hand up when the time came for them to match up to them. Yes, they didn't do that at London Place because most of these players were just getting into the rugby setup. At St. Thomas's, we know they end up doing about 12 different sports, and it's difficult to continue the squad. But then now they've really bought into the belief that they can go the distance. I think the coaching staff makes a massive difference, because with Anuranga Walpola, Omaka Gunaratne, and also Vetha Singh coming in with our good friend Hisham being the analyst of this setup, they brought in that belief that yes, we can go on to become league champions, because that's something that we didn't see from St. Thomas's past couple of seasons, where they were very happy winning a trophy or two, where they played the rest of the season with a result coming their way. If they would be happy if the result came their way. But Trinity, on the other hand, I think they will be happy at the fact that they are slowly but surely getting into the rhythm. And also, they will be confident of traveling to Colombo, having traveled to Colombo already 4 times this season. So that's not going to be an issue. But the conditions, I think, are going to be a massive factor of the game. Playing at big club grounds is never easy. That turf really takes, it basically pulls the rug under your feet. The wing factor is massive, and that train that goes by every time a rugby match played. Yeah. So that's going to be a very, very interesting one. Also, when it comes to Canon, our Disarium Trophy, both teams put a lot of value on it. Your team photo at the end of the season is never complete without that shield. So that's going to be a very, very interesting matchup.
Yeah, it certainly is. Lakshisi, all Isipatana coaching team bringing a little bit of that Isipatana mindset perhaps to St. Thomas's?
I was just about to mention that maybe it is that Isipatana, the aura that Isipatana support staff created in the St. Thomas's dressing room. I believe that's something very, very positive for them in this season. But I think but at the end, it all comes down to the players, isn't it? Makal Karunaratne, Mayanka Dias, even the skipper in the last few games, he has put his hand up brilliantly, Vikram Surya. And I think for me, Makal Karunaratne, he's going to be the man who can make a difference for St. Thomas's, especially in that Trinity game as well. But that matchup between the Trinity number 8 and the St. Thomas's number 8 in that game, it's going to be like Godzilla versus King Kong, in my opinion. It's going to be really, really
It's
big.
interesting to see a number 8 of that stature being in the school setup, because we haven't seen a number 8 of Makaya Karunaratne statures who has that ability and the skill set as well in the recent times. Most of the number 8s, I'm not undermining them. The recent number 8s that have come out of schools have been more leaner. They've looked more like locks than 8s. So it's interesting to see how Makaya Karunaratne goes against the third row of Trinity.
Yeah,
And
true.
also another point with regard to St. Thomas, they must be doing something right there, because if I'm not mistaken, last year they won the under 14 and under 16 championships as well. So they seem to be having a really good system in place, and probably this was building over a period of time and now it's come to a head. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can go all the way. Yeah.
Yes, it certainly will. Two very different players in Shrayan Satish Kumar and Makal Karunaratne coming up against each other, as Lakshisi was saying, but we'll see who comes out on top. But don't forget, it is a team game. Speaking of teams, call it, Abdullah.
Well, I have to go with St. Thomas's, purely fact that they're playing at home. Trinity, will they be able to adjust to those conditions? For me, that's the crucial factor. But I think just St. Thomas is on such a high, having beaten Isipatana. If they just stick to their guns and do the basics well, I'd have to say that they'll probably win that game. But it's going to be a really close game. And just like what we saw last week against Isipatana, it's just going to be a fantastic occasion.
Sudarshana?
Going to be a very tough one to call, but I think it's going to be Trinity that gets the big W. The reason I think solely is because of the fact that when you have a team experiencing that jubilation that they did experience against Isipatana, it's going to take a lot of work to try and get their focus back onto this week. So that's going to be a little tricky for the staff, because remember, that was the first time they beat Isipatana in 16 years. And it was a very emotional and something very close to their heart that they won. So to try and get them to focus back onto this game is going to be difficult. And also at how Trinity has played the last couple of weeks, I think Trinity might go the distance and they will get the big W.
Lakshisi, neutral's view?
I think it's going to be really tough to call out a winner. But can I call it a tie? Is it possible? No.
It'll be good for the league if it's a draw.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, as Sudarshana mentioned, St. Thomas is beating Isipatana after 16 years, and Trinity College, I think, they're in the best form they have been in the last few years. So, and also they have that confidence that they did manage to beat them early as well in the season. So that's why it's so hard to call, to be honest. But the fact that the game will be played at big club grounds, I feel St. Thomas's, sorry Sudarshana, I feel that St. Thomas's might get the big W.
Well, 3 versus 1 is what it is. Obviously, I'm going for St. Thomas's as well. Not just for purely sentimental reasons, but I think for rugby reasons as well. I think St. Thomas's are on the upward trajectory, and Trinity may just have peaked, but hopefully the rugby will decide and we won't have anything else. We have Royal taking on St. Peter's. Abdullah, this is going to be a game that Royal will want to put a real marker down. St. Peter's haven't flattered really, so they will want to show after that reversal against Trinity that they still are a team to be reckoned with.
Yes, and out of the 6 teams in the group, these are probably the 2 teams who have just struggled through the season, if I may say so. So yeah, particularly for Royal, they'll be pretty disappointed with what happened up in Pallakele. So they'll definitely want to put an improved show, and both teams will realize that they cannot afford to drop this game, because they haven't carried any points forward from that first round. So it's an absolute must-win game for them to have any hopes of going on and winning the league. St. Peter's being defending champions, I'm sure there's as much pressure on them as well to get the win. So I think it's going to be a pretty close game, a game that's going to be pretty hard to call, for the fact that both teams haven't probably been at their best so far. So yeah, it's going to be important as well as a pretty tough match to call.
Yes, it will be a tough match to call indeed, but Sudarshana, St. Peter's defending champions, but it just goes to show that if you don't manage your stuff off field, that it's going to affect you on the field.
100%, because we got to remember, despite the tension, despite the massive monetary implications involved, we are talking about young men, we are talking about children here. So management is going to be absolutely crucial, and I think that some teams are experiencing the adverse effects of not managing them very well, and this game is going to be crucial, like Abdullah mentioned, for both these teams, because Royal have been there and thereabout throughout the season, but it came on down last week at Pallakele. But what they will want to do is to make sure that they keep their focus, because for all these 6 teams, league is still a mathematical possibility. So none of these teams are going to bow down and surrender their chance of winning the league. And because all these 6 teams are very proud rugby playing schools, and most of these teams will have traditional trophies or encounters that go into these games. So it's going to be very, very important. And like you mentioned, managing off field is going to be key, because getting that mentality of these young ones who are 16 to 19 years old is of paramount importance.
Lakshisi, points to be proven for both teams when they go into this game. How do you see it?
So when you talk about the 2 teams, Shanaka, both the teams, they technically come into this round with 1 loss. So because of that, this becomes basically, I think most probably will become sort of an eliminator. So whoever loses this encounter will most probably won't have the chance to win the big one. So I think that will play a huge part in this encounter, that mental effect that will go into the place. So, but after taking a look at that first round, St. Peter's College had a lot of close games, and as I mentioned earlier as well, Wesley did manage to beat them convincingly. I think sort of a similar story with Royal as well, but Royal have been more convincing when it comes to the other games. If we just take a look at the other games, if we remove the Trinity encounter and the other encounters, Royal have been much more convincing. So I feel Royal might have the edge over St. Peter's because of those things.
Sudarshana?
Yeah, I'm going to agree, because you look at some of those players in the Royal outfit as well. When you match them up with St. Peter's on paper, they are a little far ahead. Idris Farooq brings in a wealth of experience, and also you have the Royal back 3, Amarasinghe, Balasuriya, who was the highest try scorer up until last week, and Patirena. And they did try to do that against Trinity as well, crowd them into one channel and try breaking that. I do not think St. Peter's will have that defensive discipline to try and keep these 3 under wraps. And also when it comes to the forwards, I think Royal, despite struggling with their line out, might have the edge against St. Peter's this time. So I'm going to go with Royal College.
Abdullah, you agree?
Yes, I agree, and I think also for Royal to do well, their 3-quarter defense, I think, is going to be important, because Peters, very clearly their strength seems to be their 3-quarter line. So if Royal can just negate that part of the Peterites game by getting their defense organized and making them and not allowing Peters to get behind the first line of defense, then I think they'll be okay, because I just feel that they can match that Peterite pack man for man, and if they can do that and get their back 3 into the game more often, then I think they have a slight edge. And again, I think for me, Idris Farooq is going to be the key player in that whole scenario. And if he can control the game, play his territorial kicking game well, then I definitely fancy Royal to try and pull that off.
Well, it's unanimous among us here in the studio. It's probably going to be Royal College in that particular game, and Royal with a point to prove. And Coach Sudhanshu Luke does not like losing, and he will make sure that his team comes out and proves that it was very much a one-off blemish on this season's win chart. Let's now look at Isipatana taking on Wesley. That's going to be a very entertaining game. We hope that the injuries to their midfield is done and they will be available, and Isipatana will have their full complement of players. Wesley also having their vice-captain Thabit at the end of the first round. He was injured with quite a bad injury. I think he's broken his nose. So we'll have to wait and see whether he will be available as well. Lakshisi, it's going to be an entertaining encounter. I hope we'll see a lot of tries.
Exactly. I think Wesley College, as I mentioned earlier as well, Shanaka, will come into this encounter as the favourites if we talk about the most recent form. But Isipatana College, I think they want to make a comeback in this encounter after losing to St. Thomas's, and they have the confidence that they did beat Wesley College. So it's sort of a very similar case. I think Isipatana, I feel Isipatana might get over the line, and Wesley, just because of the fact that they have not been a part of these big games in the last few years, might come into play, because Isipatana boys, they have the experience of playing in those big games. They played one just few weeks ago against Trinity in that final. So all those things might come into play, and the fact that the game will be played at Havelock Park as well. So I feel Isipatana might just get the job done and completely change things around when it comes to the points table, and we'll most probably have just one unbeaten team because of that result.
Okay, one unbeaten team at the end of this round is what Lakshisi is predicting. Sudarshana, what do you think?
Going to be a very difficult one to call, especially like Lakshisi mentioned. I can't really remember the last time Isipatana lost 2 games on the trot. And after losing to St. Thomas's, this Isipatana side, who are the knockout champions, will be like a shot tiger coming into this game. Wesley, on the other hand, haven't had any resistance except for the St. Peter's game, which was supposed to be a close one, but they ran away with it. So how will they face when they are faced with a good challenge? The closest example we can go back to is the semi-final against the same opposition, and Isipatana got over the line. So
quite comfortably as well.
Quite comfortably as well. So when it comes to the past performance, when it comes to how these teams have played with each other, and when it comes to big games, how they react, I think Isipatana might take it. But you look at the form lines, I think Wesley has the edge. So I'm conflicted between the two. But given the fact that it's going to be at Havelock Park, I'm going to go with the green men.
Okay, it's going to be a very, very close game. So we have 2 for Isipatana. Abdullah?
Yes, well, for me, I think the key is going to be how Isipatana handles the pressure. Because just like Royal and St. Peter's, they haven't carried any points forward to this next round. I don't think they got the bonus point either. No. So there is a lot of pressure on them. They cannot afford to drop this game. So how well will they be able to handle that pressure? And we all know the expectation of the Isipatana faithful is that they are just so used to success. The expectation is so high. So will Isipatana be able to cope with that pressure? For me, that is the key. As Lakshisi also said, they have been in these big games. They know how to handle it. But this is a different kind of pressure. They're up against a very confident Wesley team who know their game inside out. So, and they have game on game, you've seen the intensity which they have maintained over an 80-minute period, which Isipatana hasn't, as we were discussing earlier. So I just feel that that pressure could get to Isipatana, and with the confidence that Wesley has, I'd back Wesley to just pull this off. But again, it's going to be a close game.
It will be a close game, certainly, and it's probably 2 versus 2 here, because I'm going to go with Wesley as well, purely for the reason that Isipatana don't quite have the depth. Yes, they would have had 2 weeks of rest. But I feel that somehow if Wesley can keep their discipline, then they're going to come through in this and come through it easily if they keep their discipline. Of course, if they allow the yellow cards like they did last time, purely based on that shutout of St. Peter's College, it just goes to show that they hunt in packs and they are very organized defensively as well, just like Trinity are. And I feel that they might just have a little bit too much and can up the intensity for this game coming up against Isipatana. So that's our fixtures for the first week of the second round. And of course, we've had an overall look at all the teams and what we think is going to happen. Do you think there's going to be an unbeaten team at the end of this Cup Championship, guys?
Oh, that's a tough call.
That's a tough one, I think.
Well, at the end of this week,
And-
at the end of the next week, one of the teams is going to be unbeaten unless it's a draw, Lakshisi. So one of Trinity and St. Thomas's is going to remain unbeaten.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's guaranteed, almost. But what about the others? Is there a scenario where Isipatana beats Wesley? And
So
Trinity-
Wesley is the only other unbeaten
Yeah.
team in the mix. So if that happens, I think that's going to be brilliant for
The
the
league,
competition.
yeah.
Because up until the final week, we wouldn't know which way it'll go, and that's how the leagues are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I think that might be the case because the matchups are going to be very tricky coming on to the second and the third week. So yeah, I do not think there will be a team at the end of the season which is unbeaten.
unbeaten league champ, Abdullah?
I don't think so as well.
Okay.
I think the competition is pretty close amongst at least the top 4 teams. And also, we just keep harping about, isn't it? I think the home ground advantage in some of those matches is going to prove crucial. We're talking about Trinity being able to host 3 of their games up there. But again, an important game against St. Thomas's, they have to come down to Colombo. So there are so many others kind of scenarios which you will have to look at. So it's very hard to see a team being unbeaten at the end of the league season, which I think is just brilliant.
Isipatana, everybody counted them out at the end of that 69th minute of the knockout. You think they can do the same thing in this competition?
Hopefully they do. So Shanaka also have the same thoughts. I don't think there'll be an unbeaten team this season. I feel the bonus points might come into play. I think each of those points will be very, very important. The fact that if they can score 4 tries against, because all the 4 opponents that they'll face are very good ones. So if they can get those 4 tries over, I think that will be a huge, huge plus for them. And I feel it's going to be the bonus points that might make the difference, or even the points difference. Who knows? So it will be really, really close.
It might come down
yeah.
to points difference
Yeah.
because even if you win your games and how the others come about, because you talk about St. Thomas's, if it's 3 against 1, St. Thomas's versus Trinity, but St. Thomas's will have to play Michael Gunaratne's trophy next as well, and that's very personal for the Royal College. They're not going to surrender that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting.
It is certainly going to be interesting. Lots of permutations, of course. And it's not just whether you win, it's how you win. Do you get your bonus points? Do you get your 2 bonus points? Do you lose and get your 2 bonus points as well? So all those things are going to come into the mix because this is going to be super close. I don't think there's going to be an unbeaten team either. Isipatana may be beating Wesley. Wesley may be beating Trinity. Trinity may be beating St. Thomas's. All these things could happen. Royal could come out of the mix and pull out an upset. We never know what to expect, but that's why we have CEAT Rock and Roll to tell you what to expect. Make sure Pod Hub Matchup is where you go and select the second round of matches that you can make your predictions on. I have to say, at the end of the first round, just one of you gentlemen, out of over 1,000 people who predicted, just one of you has a chance to go all the way. But of course, we will restart the counting at the end of the second round. Gentlemen, let's quickly go to the Play Championship. Who are the teams that you feel that we need to look out for here?
Been pretty impressed with the way Kingswood have progressed this season. I thought they started the season with a couple of tough matches, but from then on they've just kicked on, isn't it? So I think they're going to be serious contenders. I also like the look of DS. I think they have been in that A division rugby for a long time, so they've accumulated that experience, their ability to handle the pressure. So I'd probably say they are the 2 favorites from my point of view in that plate segment.
Sudarshana?
Apart from those 2, of course, I think DS and Shanaka College and also Trinity College, who have really come back up onto the fray. Apart from those two, I think St. Joseph's, who have severely underperformed this season, with a very good side and a fairly big side as well, are going to want to make their presence known in this second round, and they might be the side to look out for, apart from Trinity College and DS. DS, I think, unlike the last couple of seasons, you could spot some holes when it comes to them defensively and also attack, especially in their backs. So I'd put my money on St. Joseph's and Kingswood.
Okay, and we haven't talked about Zahira. What do you think, Lakshisi?
I was actually about to talk about Zahira, because they have been really impressive in that game against Isipatana. That late comeback to give Isipatana that scare, it was such a great performance. And against Mahanama, they were really convincing Shanaka. So, and coming back to Kingswood, I think something that I always believe is you need a good Kingswood side each and every year to make things interesting, and that has been the case this year. They have been really good. They pushed Isipatana. They did manage to play a very good game against St. Thomas's to start things off. Lost by 1 point, and that knockout encounter against Royal. So everything pointed at the right direction for Kingswood, and they have made things count. So for me, I believe Kingswood might be the favourites in the play, but Zahira will definitely give them a run for their money. So it's going to be Zahira or Kingswood, in my opinion.
Well, a bit of a difference of opinion there as to who will come out trumps in the play championship, but it is going to be so competitive.
Just one thing, watch out for Anand.
Yeah. They are a very good side. They've lost their fly half, though. Attanayaka is still injured, and that's really unfortunate for them. Although he can play a couple more years, we're not seeing him this year behind this big pack of Anand forwards. You've been very impressed with them, Abdullah.
Especially their 8, but I just think that they just lack the 3 quarters to cause any problems. Their fullback, I think it's Chamudita. He's got an excellent kicking game on him, and defensively also he's pretty good, but he just lacks support with the rest of the 3 quarters. So I just feel that as they come up against teams like Kingswood, as they come up against teams like DS, they could struggle for the fact that they just don't have the 3 quarters to cause, because they depend so much on their forwards, and as they meet slightly better teams than what they have overcome in their group stage, I just feel that they could struggle to go all the way and make it to that plate championship.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. It's certainly going to be a very, very competitive championship. Certainly not any less competitive than the Cup Championship is going to be. We've got the bowl segment also quickly to talk about. Gentlemen, who do you fancy here?
I like the way Thurston have progressed. So they have, from the start of the season, they definitely shown a good trajectory in the way they have gone, and I think they got that important win against Vidyartha, who are also in the bowl. So they'll carry full points from that game onto the next round. So that could prove important, and also. It would be great to have another Colombo Servant school in the top division as well, isn't it? So that's on one side. And also, I think I'd like to see Science making it, because I just feel that they're a team, although they haven't not yet got a single win, they're the only team to have got a losing bonus point in every single game. So it just shows...
They actually did get their first win of the season, beating the Antonians in the last week.
Oh, did the Antonians won? I think.
No, Science College did.
I think Antonians won. I think it was 28-24.
Yeah.
So it was a close game. It was a really close game, and that was Antonians, I think, who got their first win. Yeah. But the fact that they got the losing point in every single match against the top teams as well, I just think that with their experience of being in this, the top division rugby, I definitely fancy their chances of staying in that top league.
And Sudarshana, who do you fancy for the bowl?
I think I'm going to go all out with Science College, because the way they pushed St. Peter's off as well, despite it hurts to know that they are the most under-resourced side when it comes to that top division. You take all 16 schools, Science might be at the bottom, but they I think have the biggest heart. They've got the way they played against St. Peter's College, very unfortunate not to win that one. And against Antonians, last time I checked, they were winning it, I think, until the last minute. That's why I remember it as they won that game. I think Science will have what it takes to go to the next step and win that bowl. But I think Vidyartha and Antonians might also be a force to be reckoned with, because both teams will feel like they do not belong in that segment. They will want to make sure that they put their best foot forward. But keep an eye out for Thurston as well to spring a couple of surprises and put some upsets in the mix. But I'm going to side with the lads from Mount Lavinia Science.
So we haven't talked really about Vidyartha. Nobody's really pipping them to come up trumps. Lakshisi, would you agree?
With the college, I think we talked about this earlier as well, Sudarshan. If they do produce the similar sort of performance which they did against Royal College in that first round, I believe they'll have a very good chance. But the fact that they lost to Thurston College will play a huge part, because they don't have points, Shanaka. And I have to agree with Abdullah and Sudarshan here as well. Science College, it's going to be really hard to topple them, I believe. Dilwan Pera is a serious talent. He's going to be a great asset for Sri Lanka if he continues to play rugby. And
stays healthy.
And so because of that, Science College, I believe it's going to be really hard to beat them, because they have collected 6 points without winning a single game in that first round. That says a lot about how close they have come in all those games. I think maybe a little difference here and there would have definitely changed the result of most of those games. So Science College, they are my favorites. But as you mentioned with that college, it's going to be really hard to play with them as well. St. Anthony's, I feel they never recovered after that bashing by Trinity College in the knockouts. I believe that's the main reason for the downfall in this season, because they have a decent side. So I think that played a huge part. And Mahanama College, they started off so well in the league, but then you have to believe that they didn't play in the same way they did against St. Thomas's and Isipatana against the other teams. So that's the reason why they're in the ball, because a lot of people expected them to be in the play, but that didn't happen. So I think Mahanama is a name that we actually forgot during this conversation, and they'll definitely be a huge threat to all other teams. But Science College, I think they'll be the favorites. And Thurston College, how they improved game by game, that's been really impressive, and they deserve that win. But still, Science College, I'm going with Science as well.
And also another small thing, there are 3 candy schools in that bowl segment, isn't it? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. You just don't want too many of those candy schools going down as well. So Dharma Raja, unfortunately, have looked completely out of it. Vidyartha have blown hot and cold most of the season, and Anthony's just haven't been able to get it together consistently enough. So all these teams are more or less at a similar level. So it's going to be interesting to see which team will be able to perform consistently, because once you get into that bowl segment, you are in that relegation zone. So you'll have to be really careful.
Yeah, a lot to play for. So the overwhelming favorites for the bowl competition are Science College here. For us in the studio, look for Thurston, look for Mahanama, also to spring a few surprises.
CEAT Car Radials. The road is yours.
Some things are meant to be felt, not just seen good. At Singha, every curve, every detail is an invitation to experience craftsmanship that transcends time. Crafted with absolute love from materials chosen for their grace and designed to complement the art of living well. Your home is a reflection of your story. Singha is there in the quiet moments and the lasting memories. Built to endure. As time passes, they even feel more closer to you. Quiet luxury, lasting craftsmanship for a stylish lifestyle. Singha Furniture.
Hearts racing fast, we feel alive for miles and miles. Let your spirit fly. There's no turning back. The road is yours.
German-engineered tyres for Sri Lankan roads. CEAT Car Radials. The road is yours.
Well, that's it from us here in the studio. Looking forward to this second run. I'm sure you are looking forward to it as much as we are here, and we would love to call those games for you as well. Lakshisi De Silva, a good mate from the Papare as well, who does such a bunch of work to bring these matches to you. Sudarshana Peiris, Abdullah Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.